Hello and welcome to The Pledge. Theresa May be hanging on, but her voice certainly isn't.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move. OK, you may say that, but you should hear Jean-Claude Juncker's voice as a result of our conversation.
The last time her voice was this croaky, she was handed a peanut at home. And some MPs couldn't resist making jokes in the Commons about the Prime Minister's lack of voice, making a cheap joke at the expense of someone else. We at The Pledge would never sink so low. Coming up, Majid says we need to stop playing politics with kids' lives. Afua thinks it's time for IS bride Shamima to come home. Michelle calls for kindness. And Rachel asks, who rules the world? But first, it's me. At times, you had to wonder which Theresa May would lose first, her voice or her job. At the time of recording, she appears to have hung on to both. But what has been undoubtedly and unceremoniously shredded, however, is the PM's authority. Unable even to whip her own cabinet, and what does that say about her power? She agreed to a free vote over the future of the no-deal option. She was also inexplicably still clinging to the ludicrous delusion that life could be breathed into the deal that's proved as popular as a dose of herpes. Indeed, it's earned her 2 of the 4 biggest defeats ever in parliamentary history. Now, her deal is defeated, no deal discarded, and a delay demanded. But it is an inconvenient truth for many in Westminster that while the referendum showed the majority of the electorate want to leave the EU, many of our parliamentarians do not. So they've been granted their extension. Now they need to sort it, and faster than, oh, I don't know, a Ferrari?
Lots to unpack there. And my guess is no better than yours, Nick. I mean, I think that now we have an extension. You know, I can quite imagine that, you know, in many decades to come, we will be gnawing on roast rat in our shelters. And Theresa May will still be putting her meaningful vote to Parliament again and again as we carry on. She's going to still be Prime Minister. She seems indestructible, although everything is detonating around her. There she is, with her tunes ready to carry on. And I think what's going to happen is this. You've got to see this in terms of a 4-horse race now. And some
a 4-horse race?
You know,
okay.
You've got no deal is still there because if we don't get a result on her deal, the legal parameters dictate that we have to leave the EU on the 29th. We have her deal, which is, I think, she's going to keep putting it as many times as she can.
next Wednesday we hear it again.
Next Wednesday, she's going to put her deal. I don't think that she's going to win, but she's winning. She's losing by less as each time. Then we have general election, and then we have a referendum. And if you see it in terms of Cheltenham races, where I may be going,
I'm surprised you haven't named the bookmakers. Go on.
The
I know what's
nags
coming
that
up
are
here.
general election and referendum are nosing faster than they were. No deal and her deal are receding in the field.
Magic.
Well, you see, the thing is, I feel like, what with Brexit, I feel like we're in a taxi. A family's jumped into this taxi.
Hang on, first we were at the races, now we're in a taxi.
That's right, and the head of the family, man or woman, doesn't matter for this analogy, has said to the driver, drive. And the poor taxi driver's flipped the meter on, and he says, all right, governor, where do you want me to go to? It doesn't matter, just drive. And I feel like the frustration so he starts moving the car, he's heading towards an airport, he's got all the bags in the back, and he says, which airport do you want me to drive to? Gatwick, Heathrow, Stansted, you know, Southend in Essex is quite good these days, by the way, the Southend airport. And the passengers say, we don't care, just drive. You know, and this is the problem, we don't know where we're headed.
Can I make one point on that?
Yeah, of course, and then we'll bring
up... the EU has to agree to an extension that we've achieved. And they will want to know where the destination is, I think, before they agree to this extension.
Of course, we've got to let them know what it is.
Or they might say, we need to know what you want, and if you don't know what you want, the rider to granting this extension is we need a confirmatory referendum.
Yeah, well, we'll just finish the point. It's very quickly. This was the point of what I was trying to say, that leave means leave doesn't help us understand, A, where we want to go, and B, what the EU needs to know to actually agree to this extension, right?
Let's get Michelle. Michelle, it's fair to say of this panel, you're probably the most ardent leaver, I would say, I mean, I'm a reluctant leaver. You're really believing. Do you think you're closer to your goal?
No, so I mean, I was probably not too dissimilar to you. I don't wake up in the morning chanting Brexit, Brexit, Brexit. Nor do I hang out in the rain, you know, chanting it either. So absolutely on balance, I wanted Brexit, and I'm very disappointed. I've said this throughout. Brexit could and should have been managed very, very differently. And as a matter of comparison, although different, I was at Churchill's War Rooms a couple of days ago.
Right.
And watching the bunker spirit of cross-party working and people coming together and him showing true leadership. Obviously a very different scenario, but we have been let down as the voters. We haven't had true leadership. People are very confused as to where we are. I think I know where we are now. I've got hairpiece. I'm in a taxi going to the horse racing.
Not literally.
So I feel very clear as to where I am around this table. But should we look at what the EU thinks? Let's look at what Michel Barnier thinks.
Again, the House of Commons says what it doesn't want. Now, this impasse can only be solved in the UK.
So they're batting it back to us. And my final point is I was so disappointed that the no deal option, and I know it wasn't legally binding or anything, but I was so disappointed that people voted to take that off the table, because I do not understand how anyone could consider having a basic, even a basic, never mind a complex negotiation, if you take that opportunity to walk away off the table. It's just backwards.
I want to bring you, just reflect on this if you would. The Prime Minister used someone who, 3 years ago, Michael Gove was booted out of the Cabinet. Now he is her voice in the House of Commons. Discuss. It's incredible.
Everything has shifted to a surreal degree. I mean, think about Nigel Farage then and now. Think about Michael Gove then and now. You've got the Attorney General, who's not usually known for moments of high drama, by the way, I think sounding what was actually the death knell for this withdrawal agreement this week. Let's just have a listen to what Geoffrey Cox said in the Commons.
Let me make it clear. The legal risk, as I set it out in my letter of the 13th of November, remains unchanged.
I just want to pick up on what you said, Michelle, because this all comes together for me. The reason that the House voted to take no deal off the table is because it was on the table for almost 2 years. We have failed to get a withdrawal agreement. That's acceptable to Brexiteers. And I feel that Brexiteers are going to rewrite history to say it was Remain people who have messed up our chances of leaving on 29th March. Please, let's remember, they voted against this deal. They hate this deal. And they did not want to see it happen. So it's not just these supposedly pro-Remain people trying to sabotage Brexit.
It's supposed to be better than a bad deal.
OK.
What happened to that?
But nobody wants a no deal. And you have people like Philip Hammond talking about the international reputational damage that's been done to our country by the complete calamity of leaving no deal as a viable option.
On this point, can we just see what Nick Bowles said on this point of Brexiteers?
OK.
Nick Bowles' series of tweets on Afwa's direct point just there, if you have a look at them, he says, as Brexiteers tuck into their porridge this morning, they have a very difficult decision to make. I hope they won't mind some frank advice from one who is a colleague to all and a friend to some. Do yourselves a favour, take the win, vote for the deal. He then went on and said, if you don't, people like me will conclude that you'll never be satisfied, that you aren't open to compromise, that you are hell-bent on forcing the UK to crash out of the EU without a deal. We will then do whatever it takes to frustrate you. We will vote to stop no-deal Brexit on the 29th of March. We will vote to extend Article 50 for a few months, and we will then work with opposition parties to build a majority for a softer Brexit deal.
OK. Let's get Rachel back in.
Yes, we need to return to the Attorney General. And, you know, everybody was waiting for him to say, give us a means, the ladder for the ERG to climb down so they could vote for the Brexit they so desire. Yet, what we saw was political will being destroyed on the anvil of legality. And so Geoffrey Cox, as we all know, came back and said that there was no unilateral exit from the backstop. And then Jon Snow tweeted, a lawyer contact tells me that the legal word is aware that the Attorney General said no last night to the validity of Mrs May's new EU deal. He's been told to go away and find a way to say yes This is Jon Snow's tweet. A cohort of lawyers has been summoned. Geoffrey Cox replied with one word. Everyone, bollocks!
So they say.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Of rather unfortunate language, I would suggest. Jacob Rees-Mogg was asked this week, or was indicated to him this week, that in fact he's lost Brexit because of the action taken by the ERG. He's effectively kissed goodbye. Do you think Brexit will happen?
I think it probably will happen, but as Jacob Rees-Mogg points out himself, the majority of MPs don't want it to happen. So this is why we are in this logjam. They cannot execute.
But that's not democracy, is it?
Well,
No,
why
it's
is
not.
it democracy that you can put Theresa May's deal to Parliament 3 times, but you can't ask the people twice?
Magic?
Increasingly, no. Unlikely, but I don't know what the alternative would be at this stage, because I don't even know if there's enough time for a... Well, I don't know if there's enough time for a people's vote at this stage. I don't know.
She said revoke.
Yeah, so revoke it altogether. But so on that note, whatever path we take will always be a minority path at this stage. There isn't a majority for any one path, and in that context, aren't we then all obliged to follow our conscience?
Michelle, will we Brexit before you recover from herpes?
It's a lifelong disease, so I've heard.
Is that Brexit or herpes?
It never goes away.
They're both.
What have I done by saying that sentence?
Brexit.
It can only be
Michelle
suppressed.
Dewberry.
Well, I mean, that is the million-dollar question, isn't it? And how long is this extension going to happen? So can we revoke Article 50? No.
We can. Yes, we can.
No.
If the Speaker chose that amendment, which he hasn't.
Yes, we can. Should we? Absolutely not. It would be catastrophic. And very quickly, to your final point about WTO taken off the table, if it would be so catastrophic, it would also then be some level of catastrophic to the EU, which is all the more reason why it should have been left on the table so that people could negotiate properly, so to avoid it.
If that is such a surefire strategy, why has it failed until now?
Because
we have had
the people
2
negotiating
years
have
to
been
work this out.
numpties.
Can you understand why days away from the original date we are not
We
going
need a yes
to
or no
leave
from
it?
Afghan.
Will Britain Brexit, yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes.
OK. I'm out of time. Majid.